Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. That last song was AC/DC, Dirty Deeds. Talked in the last video about what we would be doing next on the 25th anniversary car, and I talked about the Firewall. That's what we're doing today. And I jumped ahead because this really isn't something I can do a how-to on, because it's a pretty meticulous thing, and you're going to have the Firewall on and off multiple times if you're not using the Factory 5 Firewall aluminum. We happen to be using the Firewall forward, and so the order in which you put the panels in is a little bit different with this. So I'm going to turn you around and show you exactly what we have going here and why it is that we're putting these on in the order that we are. So I had to put the footbox top on to do the Firewall, and I'll show you why in a second. But since we're talking about the top of the footbox, I'd like to show you how I assemble the footbox. I like the overlap because these two pieces have to overlap, and you can overlap this piece onto this piece, or you can do it the way I do it, where this piece overlaps onto here. When the body goes on, there is a piece of foam that sits on top of this rail, and if you overlap it the other way, you not only have the foam that you'll be kind of seeing depending on where you are in the engine compartment, but then you'll have the ridge that would be on this side. I don't like that, and so I've always assembled it this way. You don't have to. You can assemble it either way you want. If there's a particular reason that they're just fitting together better with you overlapping them the other way, that's fine. This is the way I just tend to do it. These have to go on since the Firewall is no longer sitting back here. Factory 5 has the Firewall attaching to this part of the top footbox, and also down in here. The Firewall forward kit doesn't do that. It just rests on top, and you can see it has some bulb seal that seals it from the engine compartment. And so the reason that I chose to put this on first, and I choose to put this on first when I'm doing this, is that I want to be able to adjust this to get proper compression of the bulb seal. So for instance, I have the Firewall forward panel moved as far this way as I could get it, and still not bend or be bending that outside 90-degree brake on the other side. I've got it tight, but I don't have it so tight that it's pulling that 90, this way. So that was one concern. The other concern is I want to make sure that this sits down flush on top of here and compresses the bulb seal up and down, so that we don't get a whole lot of air infiltration from the engine compartment when this thing hits the road. I went ahead and I cut this portion of the bulb seal. I will probably cut off the end here as well. May even cut it back here. I don't know. There's a bulb seal that's going to go on top of here and wrap down to here, and generally I leave the bulb portion of it, but the backing portion, the part that splits and fits over the edge of the panel, is going to stop back here, and I usually let that project past just a little bit. So there's that. And then I'll kind of bring you back as I'm doing this. I still have to spread silicone across the top of the lower Firewall support, and then on that other side where it closes off the Firewall. And then I've got to set this in place, and I've got to rivet it in. So that's going to be what I'm going to be up to next, and I'll bring you back for that. right, here's a little tip for you. Before you pull this off, to put your silicone adhesive underneath, take a marker and mark back in here along the edge and along this edge and over here, so you know where. I think you can just see my line, so you know where to put your silicone adhesive. You don't want to put silicone adhesive in areas that you don't need it. You can also do that on either end, at the far end and like the driver's side end of the panel, but those are a little bit easier to reference, since just to stop just past your farthest rivet. But make sure you mark that, and then you won't have a bunch of silicone adhesive all over the place. Seems like today I'm going to be giving away all my tips. So you can see right here where I made that mark that I was just talking about, so you know where to put your silicone adhesive. But do you see all of these metal chips that were under the panel? So those chips all migrated in between the aluminum Firewall forward panel and the chassis. So the tip I'm going to give you, make sure that you dust off all of the chips from the panel that you're adhering to the chassis or to another panel. And two, make sure you've got a shop vac handy. Now, I've never shown you guys my shop vac. I just happen to like these particular shop vacs because they fit well on our work trucks, our utility trucks. But if you stay on top of vacuuming all of your chips as you're working, you will track less of these chips into your house, where they transfer from the bottom of your shoes and into your carpet. And then your wife gets really upset with you as she walks around in her bare feet and gets metal splinters. So my helpful tip to you for today is vacuum up your metal chips as soon as you finish drilling, and you'll have a much happier wife. Oh man, that was Judas Priest, Breaking the Law. Great song. All right, so here's where I'm at. I have the entire Firewall panel riveted in, and I have the silicone adhesive underneath it. What's nice about the GE silicone, the what is it, the GE silicone 2, I think it is that on powder coat, on those areas that you may seem to get a little bit to squeeze out, like here on the edges, you can come back in here and very carefully cut that with a razor blade, and the dried silicone will roll off. So you can see some here in the lower Firewall piece that I put in before. When we go to do all of the heat and sound mat, we'll address all that. And then you can see right here where I was very careful not to over apply the silicone. I still got some squeeze out right there in the middle, and I think I got some here on the end too. So right in here there's a little bit. I'm going to leave it alone because it'll just make more of a mess if I fuss with it now rather than waiting until it dries. The other thing that I may do, and I haven't decided yet, because these panels right here aren't really affixed, because generally the Factory 5 Firewall comes up here and pop rivets all the way down here, and then it pop rivets to the front. I may make a little panel here to join these two together, and then pop rivet to the back. The tough thing is going to be getting a drill on the inside to get those drilled up for pop rivets. So I haven't decided. I may just take some of the edge guard that Factory 5 supplies and put edge guard here, and then just leave it alone. So we'll see what happens. And then you can see over on this side, we've got the bulb seal that seals off the driver's compartment from the engine bay. It's nice and tight. The Firewall is all in place on both sides. I did put some tape over the top of those fittings for the fuel line so we wouldn't get any garbage down in them. And then one thing I didn't show earlier is that I went ahead and I put some heat and sound mat on the bottom of the footbox top that is now affixed to the chassis, and the side down to the 3/4 inch bar that runs horizontal that the pedal box attaches to. From here down, I can still get there, get in there to get that all covered later. But these pieces up here are infinitely harder to get to once they're in place. So I'll do the same thing with this panel before it goes on, and then the same thing with this panel before it goes on. But I think the next piece that I'm going to install is going to be the firewall extension on the passenger side, and that is this little piece that goes right in here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get this all drilled, I'm going to get it all ready to put on, and then I'll probably just put it in place and rivet it. Now these will get black pop rivets because I haven't decided if we're going to go ahead and put heat and sound mat on here and then black carpeting, just to make it a little more hidden, because in certain places, if that door is open, you'll be able to see up in there, and so I like to make this a little bit more presentable. So I may just forego putting heat and sound mat on that, since the panels are already powder coated, and then just put it in place. And just this one little spot that doesn't have heat and sound mat won't be a huge deal. Alrighty, firewall extension is all installed. One thing I am going to show you is that the slot that is cut in the firewall extension here generally isn't deep enough to get your windshield in at the right angle. So what I do is I take a 7/8 hole saw, I put it just so the top of the hole saw is cresting the bottom of the existing notch, and then I drill it out. And you can see it's a little bit wider where the hole saw is, but if you just take and file the sharp edges and leave it like that, you'll have a lot easier time getting your windshield to go in. And then if you do later want to fill in some of this space, you can actually take some of the foam that Factory 5 supplies you. I think it's some 2-inch compressible self-adhesive foam, and you can put a small piece of that in there, and that'll take up any gap that you may have, and that'll seal off the windshield opening. Generally, you're not going to get a whole lot of air movement through there because there isn't much in front of it. So that's that. The rest of the firewall is in. Another great Judas Priest song. Too bad. All right, I wanted to show you guys how I'm doing this with. Oh, really close there. I wanted to show you how I'm doing this with the black powder coated panels, because it does make it exceedingly harder, because you have to estimate on the back where you need to put masking tape, and then apply the masking tape, take your black marker, mark where the frame rails are without getting it on the nice bronze coated powder coated chassis, and then figure out where to drill your holes. So since I still have two pieces on either side that I still have to drill, I'm going to show you. This is the way I've been doing the masking. So I've got the masking estimated where it needs to go, and then I take the marker and I mark it on the top and I mark it on the bottom. You can't see that because I've got it up a little high right now, but rest assured I've got it marked. I've marked the bottom of it and made a line where I'm going to drill my holes down there. And if you notice, I've got the tabs on the inside of the footbox. Sorry, on the inside of the cockpit. So there's the tab. Here's the tab right here. Right here. And I'm going to rivet together like this so that from the inside of the fender well, there's no place for debris and everything else to get caught on that little ledge. It also is going to make the wheel well look a little nicer if someone peeks their head up in there. So I've got these all marked. I'm going to drill those. I've got the back portion of the cockpit in with just two clecos, one at the bottom on this side, one at the bottom on that side. Don't know if you can see it. And then I've got all the holes drilled across and across there. And now what I'm doing is I'm just positioning that piece to fit the side pieces. And once I'm comfortable where the side pieces are going to go, I'm going to pull them out. I'll drill them, and I'm just going to drill in Cleco in a couple of key locations. And then once I'm sure they're not going to move with the Clecos that I have installed, then I'll go back and I'll drill all the holes. And once all the holes are drilled, I'll go ahead, I'll vacuum up all the metal chips, I'll apply the silicone adhesive across the chassis members, and then the pieces will go in for the final time. One other thing to note, see if I can show you on this side. This piece right here goes on here to close out this portion of the cockpit. And so it actually overlaps back here where my finger is. So make sure that you don't run rivets down past that point, because the rivets will hold this piece off of the chassis where it needs to be. So I made a mark on the tape right there, if you can see it, and that mark indicates I don't want to drill any lower than that. And so then when I put this piece on, this piece will have the rivets go all the way through both panels and into the chassis. So that's it for now. I'll bring you back in a little while and hopefully show you those pieces somewhat fit with just a few Clecos to hold them in place. All right, everybody. Have you ever had one of those days where everything's going along just swimmingly? You are just making tracks on getting stuff done, whether it's on your car project or something around the house, and you just get that one little sidetrack, and it's like throwing everything in reverse. Well, I was working on fitting all of the cockpit aluminum on the back wall of the cockpit, and I had to raise the back of the car up. So I don't know if any of you know this. You may have seen it in one of the videos. I have a bridge jack that spans the lift and goes from side to side. It slides along the runways, and it allows you to lift the car up. So, for instance, you can take this and you can run it to the front of the car. You can lift the car up in the front, and then you can actually use the jack bridge, which is this device here, which you can see I've got a bottle jack sitting in there right now that I was using to do another project that I'm going to show you in just a second. But that slides all the way to the front. You can put jack stands on that to hold the front of the car up, bring the bridge jack down, and then you can slide it to the back of the car, and you can lift all four wheels off the ground, so you have full access to everything on the car. Anyways, I had to lift up the back of the car because while fitting these aluminum panels that make up the back wall of the cockpit, I'm going to need access where the tires are right here. So all of these rivets right here need to go in, and then all of the rivets that come down and join the two back pieces right there behind the tire, I need to have access for those as well. And so what I did is I raised up the back of the car. So as you can see, the wheels turn right now because it is off the ground, probably 1/4 of an inch, but you don't need much more than that. And so while I had it up, I thought, I need to go to the front of the car because I have some brake lines in the front that I've been waiting to attach to the frame up there because I haven't had the lift in the air. And it's just easier to get to. So you can crawl under there and drill your holes and put your pop rivets in and done, right? That's when the sidetrack came. I had one of the brake lines that is going to be very close to the top of the battery box. So this is the Breeze battery box. And I don't want to go down a big sidetrack on that, but I am missing some parts for this that if I can't source locally, I'm going to have to hit up Mark Reynolds and ask him if he can send one. But the clip on the other side is really close to the top of the battery box, but it just clears. But I needed to make sure. So with the parts that I was missing for that, it took me almost 2 days, 2 evenings, to get that battery box mounted. It never takes that long. First two pieces that I was missing were actually three pieces. Stainless steel rivets. Mark provides stainless steel. He provides all the hardware for these packages that he or kits that he sells for the different Factory 5 projects, and they're usually in little bags, and it's marked what they're for. And Mark's awesome. He just does that. Mike Everson does the same thing when he sells you stuff. Everything's marked and tells you exactly where it goes. Well, I have the bags here somewhere. I think I may have tossed them in the trash. Anyways, I got the bag, but the bag was empty. There were no rivets in it, which is odd. And then I've also got 1/4 by 20 stainless steel. What would they be? They're not stove bolts. They're kind of they're like button head screws. So they have you use a hex wrench to tighten them in. And both of them that were in the bags that Mark sent, the threads were buggered up. And I tapped and drilled and tapped the 4-inch round tube, and then the tap would go in, but the bolts wouldn't. And so then I grabbed another bolt out of my stash over here, and sure enough, those bolts go in just fine. Luckily, I had stainless hardware here. I ended up, rather than the cap head hex heads, I just went with cap head Phillips, which I guess they're considered pan head. And I put those in with a drop of Loctite, and it's all good, right? And I had the rivets too. The only crucial part that I'm missing is the crossbar piece that makes up the hold down for the battery. So if I can't find that in the stuff that we have upstairs, I'm going to have to hit up Mark and see if he can send one out, or I'm going to have to make one. But now you can see, you're going to have nights or 2 nights in a row that you're going to have stuff like this happen. And it can be really frustrating, especially when you've got, a full-time job that you're working on, and you have the pressures of life and family and all that stuff. So I guess what I'm getting at is stick with it, guys. Don't let these little things that come up deter you from working out in the shop or you're in your garage. I've said this before. Even if you only go out to the shop for 15 minutes or an hour every day, you could just be picking up tools that you left out from the previous, evening or previous day, whichever. But the bottom line is spend that 15 minutes or spend that hour out in the shop, because it's 15 minutes that you're going to be closer to getting your project completed. And so don't let the little things deter you from getting the big things done. So after a week's worth of work, if you've been out there, 15 minutes one day, an hour another day, 2 hours another day, you add up those hours, and it's pretty substantial. But just make sure you go out and work in the shop every day if you can. With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this video out. I'll be working on the cockpit panels throughout the rest of the week. I've got to get this car off the lift. I've got to get this car moved to the other shop. And I have to move one of these cars, either Pauline, the 25th anniversary car, or Jim's car, which is over there, because Michael's car is coming back next week, and I need the room in the shop. So I'm hoping it's not going to be for long. I'm hoping we can get all the stuff squared away on Michael's car fairly quickly, hopefully within a couple of weeks, and then hopefully be getting the body back soon after that. So, again, I'm going to let you guys go. We'll see you guys all next time. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the content, do the like, the share, the subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Have a great day.